What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas. I love hosting this show, and I really enjoy when we have our edition of Authors That We Love. And tonight you're going to meet four extraordinary human beings, each of whom is really on the cutting edge of consciousness. And we're going to meet them, learn about their new books, and have a dynamic conversation. And I will introduce each one of them one at a time a little bit later on in the show. But to get us rocking and rolling and moving and grooving, we're going to start the show, as we always do, with our beloved house musical artist, the inimitable, the extraordinary, the beloved, Mr. Omashar.
Woo. Namaste, everybody. Greetings, Facebook and YouTube and our streaming partners. How cool. Looking forward so much tonight to see what arises. It's always an amazing and beautiful surprise. So I'm going to go to my planetary logo here and press some buttons. You'll never walk this way again. Lay down all your guards. Your loving hearts will lead the way. The door is open. The wonderful and the new is waiting patiently. Take a step and you will see all you've been dreaming. And now is the time you've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again. You'll never be alone again. Please take my hand in yours. I love you just the way you are. You're my creation. The wonderful and the new is waiting patiently. Take a step and you will see all you've been dreaming. And now is the time we've been waiting. way again. Lay down all your guards. Your loving hearts will lead the way. The door is open. And now is the time we've been waiting for so long. I've been holding you through all ages, knowing I'd be with you once again.
Let's all go to Gallery View, send some love and appreciation to our beloved Omashar. Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
And Omashar will be back tonight for 2 more songs. And we will also be having prayer time at the end of the evening with our beloved DeArah. So we'll let you know that. Well, this first gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to, as I said, everybody's new to the awakening world. This is Joa White Eagle. And he's actually also, he first reached out to me about his organization, peacewalk.org. So we're going to learn a little bit about that first. But then a little bit later on, we're going to learn about his book that he has written. But we are the Global Peace Tribe. And so certainly learning about an organization called Peace Walk is quite relevant for us. So Joa, tell us a little bit about Peace Walk, and then he's going to lead us on a meditation to prepare us for the evening.
Thank you so much, Scott. I just really appreciate how much you reach out to the world and let people join you like this. Thank you so much. So Peace Walk, well, how it came about for me is I was in Mexico and I thought I was going to be here the rest of my life. I mean, it's so easy to live there and everything at my fingertips, don't have to drive anywhere. It's just so gorgeous. The architecture, the people, they're so in the heart. And then Spirit told me to leave, come back to the United States. And I didn't want to come back to the war country, the country, the warriors, the warring country. But Spirit said, no, you're going back. So I bought an RV from a friend in Arizona and drove all the way to Florida, still not knowing why. And I get all the way to Florida, not knowing what I'm doing. And then I saw the Buddhist monks walk from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. Did anybody see that? So I bet a number of you did. And it really touched me. And because I knew that we're on a dark, the government in our country is just on a really dark path. And we need to wake the people. People need to wake up here. And then it occurred to me, why only Buddhist monks walk for peace? I mean, why can't it be Christians? Why can't it be all of our spiritual centers, doing peace walks? And why can't just people walk for peace? And so that's where Peace Walk came about, that idea so I encourage people to walk many miles for peace, and a mile a day. Is it really that hard? I pretty soon, in about 5 more days, I will have walked 100 miles for peace. And so I have T-shirts, and I'm going to have a T-shirt for myself now. It says walked 100 miles for peace. The logo there, the Peace Walk on it. And this is what I encourage people to do: walk a mile for peace every morning. And I am trained in a method, a breath work called flow state breathing, that gets you into flow state, which is an actual brainwave state, not the beta state where the critical mind is, but you drop in that deeper place. And there's a way to do that while you're walking, while you're breathing and walking, and this gets you in that flow and in that divine flow. And and that's the state of being able to manifest what you want. If you do affirmations in beta, you got the critical mind resisting it all. That's why they don't work most of the time. But when you're in that deeper flow state, then you do affirm what you want in your life, what you're focusing on, and it manifest much faster. So Peace Walk is for our own health first, our own inner peace, to make that choice to live in peace today and to start that day off walking a mile for peace. It's that simple, very simple. But look at the world. I mean, I came back to the United States, and it was like leaving a color movie in Mexico to black and white coming to the United States. It's like even the cars are black and white. And people are all, nobody's connecting. Everybody's on their phones. Hello? Nobody. In Mexico, people say, Buenos dias. They connect eye to eye. They're still doing that, even though the cell phones are showing up. This is quite a society we live in right now. And so Peace Walk is a very simple answer for us to change it, to get out into real life, connect with people, the animals, nature, every day. And let's turn this around, because that's where world peace begins, is with all of us really connecting. So that's what I have to say.
Beautiful. There's some wonderful comments coming in. Carol Craig writes, yes, I totally agree. DeArah writes, black and white, like before the city of Oz.
Yeah.
And it's, by the way, we actually we had a friend of ours, Reverend Becky Suzik, who was one of the people greeting the monks when they came to Raleigh, North Carolina. So we carried that. And then, of course, we carried their presentation that they gave once they arrived in Washington.
Yeah, I did a recent peace walk with some monks from this area. We just did that a couple of weeks ago, and that was really beautiful with a church, and I have pictures of that if you want to see. And we're doing one on the beach coming right up next week. It's going to be on Siesta Key Beach, and on the 21st it'll be, and that's going to be fun with the yoga community. And that'll be right on the beach, so it's going to be sweet.
Beautiful. Well, we need to move forward, and I'm so appreciating that you've offered to lead a meditation for us. So take it away.
Thank you. Just going to say some words before we jump into the meditation to understand it. This is called a core energy meditation. And to give you an idea what core energy is, there's earth energy, which is food and stuff on that level, and then there's cosmic energy, and then there's crystal energy. And when I talk about crystal energy, I mean how you resonate with others. And so, when we're on the call like this, we're really connecting to crystal energy. And whenever you go to a concert, or when you're really connecting with other people or your lover, this is crystal energy, and it just it just really fills you up, right? The thing is including crystal energy, even, all these energies are temporary except core energy. Core energy is infinite and always available, no matter what, and it is the energy that heals you. It's the energy that you go to when you sleep at night. You're connecting back with your core energy. It's the energy of your soul, of your I am. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a core energy meditation to really come back to home plate. So here we go. So get yourself really nice and comfortable, and you can close your eyes or keep them slightly open. And I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting in a movie theater with the drama of your life playing on the screen. What are you concerned about? Just notice that. And now notice how close you're sitting in front of the screen. Are you close to the front of the theater, the middle, or the back? Now, in this meditation, I invite you to stand up and turn your back from the screen of your life and walk back towards the projector room. And as you walk away from your world, notice how the sounds are getting quieter and the movie picture getting dimmer. Now open the door of the projector room and step inside, where all you hear is the quiet hum of the projector. You can see now that what you've been playing with only one of thousands of movies. Feeling tired of seeing your old drama, you decide to watch something different. There are many choices, but for now, a movie reel that says rejuvenation seems appealing. You replace the movies, and a new scene appears. You just arrived at your favorite tropical beach. After long, weary travels, you collapse on the warm sand and relax. Nothing to do. No worries. Just feel the warm sun on your belly and chest. Hear the waves cascading into foam. You realize you really need this vacation to rejuvenate yourself. So you decide to stay here as long as needed. You deserve this vacation. Allow your mind to vacate. Be undistracted awareness. Every time a thought comes up, just let it go on by, like those puffy clouds in the sky. Allow feelings to move without adding more story to them. They're just thoughts and feelings. The only thing important now is no thing. Spaciousness. Pure awareness. Notice the deep stillness and relief of no longer having to play that old movie. You can just be here in the sunshine of your pure presence, completely removed from a world. You can create another movie later, but for now, allow yourself to be still in the absolute. You are undistracted, all-pervading beingness, awareness, bliss. For this moment, feel your I am. Take note of how the world suddenly disappears. Suddenly it happens so fast you're hardly aware of it. Your perspective of the world completely disappears when your awareness drops into your great I am. And when you're aware of I am, there is no world. When you generate a world, the I am tends to be covered or less pristine. Even though the world is made of the same I am, just play with that. World or I am. Later on, it all becomes one again. But for now, make that distinction. Drop the world. Feel the instant energetic relief. It's like your body can suddenly breathe again. Suddenly, when it drops away, the energy body goes, I am. And that's the truth. That's what's real. Let me just rest in what is real. And forget about my self-consciousness that's always operational when it perceives a world. Let me drop beyond form, label, and other, and revel in the reality of being oblivious to the world and being aware of the God within me, the great essence within my I am. Let me be unrestricted. I am. Let it consume your attention I am. Stop focusing altogether on visual perception and sense the deep I am. Feel the stability and the power that lies in that. Give yourself permission to recharge, to plug back into I am that I am. I know that I know. I am pure awareness. Drop into this. It's your only responsibility now. Just remain undisturbed by your own appearances and notice the space that remains. So powerful. So indestructible. So changeless. So beautifully vast. You are the eternal space. Eternal consciousness. I am. Become quieter. Only that I am. Naked, pure awareness. Isness. Being. Existence. Relief. Freedom. Great Spirit, I am.
Thank you.
Mm.
I want to just remind people that let's all join this beautiful organization that he's got going on. It's peace-walk.org. Peace-walk.org. And if any of you feel inspired to start your own local peace walk, pop that into the chat box. And of course, he talks about his first one in Sarasota. I also noticed that he has a Substack, which is, of course, how so many of our authors and people that are on this show get their word out. And so his Substack is thepeacepath.substack.com. So these are ways. And thank you, Joa, for getting us off to such a beautiful start. And we'll look forward to talking to you a little bit later on the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's meet some authors. Well, this first book, I just want to start with the title, and we're going to meet the author, Ken, in a moment. But what a perfect book for this time. Remembering Self, Seasons of the Soul Rediscovered Through Mystical Experience and Depth Psychology. And that's right along the lines, Ken, of what our people are all about. I'm going to read a little bit about the book. It's a unique exploration of the human psyche and the journey toward psychospiritual unity. Remembering Self covers the mind-body realm, as well as personal development, psychology, spirituality, midlife, eldering, and death. It uniquely weaves together the mystery of mystical spirituality, the depth of Jungian psychoanalysis, and the complexity of attachment theory. You've just combined about 6 different topics that we work with frequently on this show, Ken. So With no further ado, it is my pleasure to bring up the author, Ken, and welcome to the Awakening World.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's a delight to be here. And it is a complex topic. It's a multidimensional topic. And I'm going to try to see if I can make it as simple as possible, given its complexity. But I want to first thank Joa for taking us in and recentering us in the depth of who we are, because that's really what the book is all about. And I think Joa just brought us to that location that we're all trying to awaken. And so, so generally the book is about awakening to who we are in this time. And it's also, it's about, as Joa was saying, returning us to the home plate. And I really love that image. But it's also about, from a Jungian and depth psychology perspective, it's about the journey through the labyrinthine process of the seasons and how we come to forget who we are, but then later in life begin to remember who we are and relink to the deeper aspects of who we are. So remembering is also, it's the memory, it's the retrieval of the soul, it's the relinking to the soul, but it's also a bringing back together the pieces of us that become cast off, that become forgotten, sometimes exiled from who we are, and gathering up all of those pieces back into their original whole. And also looking at the psyche on a very multidimensional level and understanding that the self is a multidimensional phenomenon. It isn't just the small self. It isn't just the self with the big S, the deep self, the energetic unity of unity awareness of deeper being, but all of these dimensions interacting together, because we are living in a human matrix. We are living a human life. And we have a number of tasks that we are here to engage as we immerse ourselves in this incarnation. And these tasks are incredibly formative and, initially require, in a sense, the forgetting of who we are so that we can immerse ourselves and connect with a temporary identity. And this temporary identity is necessary to begin to join the human project, to bond into the human world, to attach to primary caregivers, to become part of the human project, the human community, and to engage in the collective system that we're a part of, or at least we're trying to interact with in some effective way. It's not until these layers or these foundations of personality are laid that we can begin to uncover and relink to a deeper level of who we are. So it's generally these transitional points between childhood and adulthood, or what I call the first adulthood, and the second adulthood, which takes us into midlife, and then transitions points into elderhood, which I'm finding myself transitioning into at this point, and finding it to be a whole different kind of initiation. And so we travel through this universal process, which some would call kind of a metapsychological process. And there are universal tasks that we engage, as we begin to make, conscious efforts to, as Joe was doing, to recenter, but also to consciously bring forward the deeper aspects of being so that they begin to live into life and they begin to inform us and inform, not just inform us about who we are, but inform our behavior, inform our intention. And I think, Joa is a prime example of someone who is bringing the deepest intention into manifestation, and bringing this manifestation into life in a way that is intentionally curating a movement toward peace and toward unity, which is an incredible project I think of post midlife. So that's the book in a nutshell. And but there is a behind the mystical understandings presented in the book is a very deep structure of psychology that I think is very important for us to understand as we travel through this labyrinth of the seasons.
I want to read a couple comments that have come in from our audience, and then I've got some questions for you.
Sure.
Carol Craig writes, reading your book's description page, I am fascinated by this topic, Ken. And DeArah writes, yes, from unity of self to a part for discovery, and then to a final higher and deeper version of self. Ken, this is a great example of living a consciously aware life. So you're already getting some good feedback from our people. So my question for you, because it's your first time on the show, so getting acquainted, you have 4 decades as a clinical psychologist, which is a very intellectual approach to reality. But of course, right in your book's title, you talk about the mystical experience as well as depth psychology. So in your own personal life, what would you be willing to share with us about your juxtaposition of mystical experiences with your own understanding of your own psychology?
I think that's a great question. I think from the get-go, I have always been aligned with mystical experience, and I feel that it's from that depth, because what I think of as mystical is actually the foundation of who we are. And it's from that depth that that we're continually informed on a psychological or on an intellectual level about not only who we are, but about what is the foundation of reality. We are a balance of spirit, living in a field of what we think of as physical reality. And it's the alchemy of these two levels of who we are that come together and bring about, I think, the sense of wisdom that we're and soul evolution that we're here to gain. And it's been my experiences, and I have to say, some has been informed by just living into life and through a deeper receiving, some through psychedelic experiences, which have widened the lens of experience. And it's this widened lens that I've learned how to settle into that has actually, informed my sensibilities as a psychologist and as a clinician who works with people on all levels. So, would you like, Scott, a particular example of this? Is that what you're?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
For?
Yes, please.
I think that when I began to write this book many years ago, and I felt called to this book, and I think that's the first level of experiences. This has been a calling for many years. And when I decided to write it, I decided not to write it from a research or a theoretical position. I decided to write it from a receiving position, and I found myself engaging questions and grappling with deep issues that I really didn't have the full understanding of, and my profession has not brought light to these understandings. So, in taking walks and traveling through the woods and asking questions, I found myself in deep contact with what I would consider to be helpers. And I think at first they felt like they were coming from other levels or other dimensions. And I began to realize it was a mix of things. It was a mix of these helpers, maybe soul guides, but also a deeper contact with my soul and my connection to source that was bringing forward information that was what I would say is beyond my pay grade in many respects. And so I listened into this for many years, and the book is a result of this listening, this mystical gathering, this mystical reception, and then beginning to bring it into a framework and an understanding of clinical theory that began to make sense for me. And I don't want to throw the theory out, the baby out with the bathwater, because I think that these theoretical structures are very important for us in guiding us and providing maps for us. But they don't contain the deeper perennial information that exists for us on the greatest depths of source. So that's the only way I can explain it to you.
Yeah. So a couple comments and a question from our audience. Carol Craig writes, my experience with psychedelics informed every aspect of my life. It's impossible for not to expand your perspective. And Susan writes, this is good to hear on both counts. Very well said. And then she asks, so to be clear, your use of psychedelics has informed your professional work. So that's the question we'll ask in a moment. And then there's a couple of other comments that have come in that I want to read, and we'll get to that question. DeArah writes, I believe your experience expanded the clinical theory and gave it foundation, albeit mystical. So I guess that's also kind of a question. And Carol Craig writes, I totally agree with your explanation of how psychedelics affected your outlook, because the perspective of our experience is definitely changed once we open that avenue. So just getting to the question, do you want to riff on or reflect back to any of the comments that you just heard from our audience?
I think that these reflections are absolutely correct. We do not have the capacity unless we are in a highly expanded state. And I think that there are a number of ways to reach these expanded states. They're not all through medicine. Mm-hmm. But I think that medicine is a very quick way to move to these expanded states. And I think sometimes when there is a tremendous amount of resistance on the egoic level and an over-identification with this so-called ego self, it's hard to be available to some of the deeper realities that emerge in these expanded states that can be catalyzed by the medicine. So I don't want to say that the medicine is the only way to these expanded states, but it is through the depth of these states that I've experienced with a variety of different types of medicines that have not only deepened my understanding of what I'm doing, but I think have informed my psychology and widened the lens that has taken me on a journey I just exited an interaction with the head of the Newton Institute, and who wrote the book Journey of Souls. And we're actually talking about creating an expanded theoretical structure that includes Newton's work in the overall idea of what psychology is. And I think that metaphysical approaches, and I think the metaphysical approach that was expounded on by Michael Newton very well, have been seen as a little bit fringy in the clinical world. And I don't see them as fringy at all. I actually see them as his view as foundational. Mm-hmm. And I think takes us back to the origins of psychology, which were hermetic, which were based in so many of Plato's ideas of transcendent essences. So we were very grounded in the idea that everything arises and emerges from the source thousands of years ago, and we forgot our original teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And when we began our clinical foundations in the early 20th century, we started out from kind of a scientific point of view, and it was not considered legitimate unless it adhered to certain scientific epistemologies. And so I think what's happening is little by little, we are expanding the lens. Jung expanded the lens a little bit further. Groff and Wilber and those who are the founders of the transpersonal schools, and based a lot in psychedelic work. And I was a dear friend of Houston Smith's, and I knew Ram Dass, and many of these current perspectives are now moving away from what we think of as metaphysics, and we're integrating them into what we think of is the whole picture of the psyche, because there is no separation. And so to say that something's physical and something's metaphysical and something's psychological, we're just talking about different dimensions of the same whole.
Yeah.
And so we want to bring it all in, and we want to create a perspective that integrates all of these ideas and technologies into a systematic theoretical structure. And that's something that we're trying to do with the Newton Institute at this point.
Beautiful, very exciting. Well, boy, there's a lot I'd love to talk to you about. I had the good fortune to become friends with Ram Dass and meditate with him, and we co-created a camp together. And there's so many things I would love to talk to you about, but we need to move on to our next guest. But just one more time, of course, we're going to have a roundtable conversation, so we'll talk to Ken a little bit more then. But again, his book, Remembering Self. And Ken, I really am enjoying all that you have to say, and there's so much more that is so relevant to our audience. Eldering, we should do a whole show just on eldering, because a lot of us are moving into that time or have moved.
I'm here for that. My first book was called Elders on Love. Oh. And it's all about, the consciousness and cultivation and expression of love from the standpoint of an elder's point of view. And
all right.
so
next authors that we love, I'm going to bring you back for that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
very
definitely.
good. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. This is really an abundance of riches tonight. We've got so many fascinating people with us. And next up is Liza Rankow. And she is, as you see, a writer, healer, and activist. She's an interfaith minister, and we've got several interfaith ministers in our audience, Liza. She's also the founder and former executive director of the One Life Institute, which has nurtured the well-being of frontline change makers. We've got quite a few frontline change makers in our audience as well. And tonight we're talking about her book, and just the title alone grabbed me: Soul Medicine for a Fractured World, Healing, Justice, and the Path of Wholeness. What a perfect topic for the awakening world. So welcome aboard, Liza.
Thank you, Scott. It is a pleasure to be with you and with this beloved community.
Yeah, you definitely you fit right in. Your background, and I'm surprised we haven't met previously, actually.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are circles of intersection yet to be discovered.
Absolutely. Well, again, since you're a little bit new, tell us a little bit about your journey, about your life, and what's led you to where you are today with this wonderful and important new book.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that throughout my life, my voice is doing interesting things tonight. Not sure why, but I ask you to bear with me. But there have really been three core elements that have woven through my life, both personally and professionally. and that's spirituality, healing, and social justice. You mentioned One Life Institute, which really sat at the intersection of those three. And even from my childhood, when I was in third grade, I had what I thought of as an underground newspaper called The Dove, which was my protest response to the war in Vietnam. And I've always been drawn to the essence of spirituality more than any doctrinal or institutional expressions of it. Very much finding spirit in nature through direct relationship with nature. I related with a lot of what Ken shared about the mystic stream of the spirit. And that is where I make my home. The book is also an expression of those three and really looks at the times that we're in, times of such devastating ecological, political, and social upheaval, and explores how we can meet all of this with what is deepest within us, right? How we can live with purpose and meaning, not just in spite of the crises, but as our response to them. It's so natural in the face of all of this to want to disconnect, to numb ourselves, to avoid the intensity of the pain. But the answer is not to disconnect, it's to connect more deeply, to root ourselves in that spiritual, sacred essence that is present within all of life and our belonging to all of life, to the earth and the elements and the ancestors and the coming generations, as well as one another, right? So in a sense, the book is an invitation to remember and live into that larger wholeness and to contribute whatever is ours to this, what I would call a transgenerational project of collective healing and liberation. I don't know if you want me to keep going, Scott. I certainly can.
Well, I always love to find out what personal moments were significant. And so I'm going to go in that direction. But I just want to acknowledge, I love that at such an early age, you were a little baby activist, a little child activist. And
It was.
That's really quite beautiful. I find that so many of the people, no matter what our age is, I just turned 70, but we came in with just this desire to make a big difference in the world. And it shows up as a 10-year-old creating her first little underground newspaper. But I really love that.
And reading Autobiography of a Yogi. So
I didn't
that,
see,
right?
You're ahead of me. I didn't get to autobiography until I was 16, but that changed my life. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I part of writing the book was the opportunity to really go back and reflect on the full breadth of my life journey.
Yeah.
And to reconnect with that wise child. I had done healing on the wounded child, but bringing this book forth really brought that wise spiritual activist, third grader, back into my life in a very, very important way. And so I feel like I've been trying to get back to what she knew, that I took the circuitous route. Somebody said in the chat before, the union to the distinction in order to explore and learn and, stumble and go through all that we go through, and then finding our way back to what we knew when we came in.
So let's talk about the unique juxtaposition of this innocent girl who's become the woman, and all about healing, but also justice. Those two don't always go together. They ideally go together.
Right.
But quite often you get the more angry activist So how have you balanced your interest in healing and your social activism?
Yeah. Well, part of my circuitous journey was forgetting that integration and going between the two, right? Periods of deep spiritual exploration, healing, communion, and periods of, assertive in the streets, social justice work, and suffering the ravages of that schism.
Mm.
And it was really over time of necessity to rediscover their integration, that they're more like the in-breath and the out-breath. How could they be separate? We need both. I think we're called into both, and each enriches the other, right? That our spiritual depth and our mystic connection with source and with oneness not only nourishes and sustains our capacity to be agents of transformation in the world, but it allows us to engage that work from a deeper place, right? Not from the ego personality self, but from the worldview of mystic oneness, from the vision of a possibility beyond the choices that we see in the dominant culture.
Question I like to ask my friends that are activists: how are you doing with keeping your spirits up given the state of the world? Having been an activist for so long and seeing, a president that's making the choices that are being made, or whoever's making those choices, both the impact on the environment, the impact on peace in the world. How's your activist heart managing with that?
Scott, that really is the substance of my book, is how can we engage these times in a transformative way? I talk early in the book about the archetype of apocalypse, which, contrary to, pop culture, is not the fiery demise of everything, but it's the end of an age, the end of a world, rather than the end of capital
The world, right?
THE world, right?
Yeah.
And it's part of a cycle. So it's death and rebirth, it's destruction and renewal. And we are in that period of destruction, that the world that empire created is rotting and decaying from within. It is a world built on a paradigm of dualism, of othering, of separation, of domination and extraction. What would a world rooted in a paradigm of oneness create? And that's the invitation in the book, right? One, to unpack how we got to where we are. What are the core fundamental principles? It's not just a particular president or administration, right? It's a worldview that has been persistent for millennia on this planet. But there are worlds that preceded this, that were aligned with a deeper knowing, that had not separated from our relationship with Earth and with the sacred. So in some ways, it's about remembering something. Of course, there are cultures that never forgot, and all of nature never forgot. So as we attune ourselves with that remembering, this is something that, that spirit, the trees actually can, to what your point about going for walks and being instructed. I was despairing about how we're ever going to transform this this consciousness that is so assaultive.
Mm.
And the trees said, it's just humans, first of all, and not even all humans, but a portion of humans that have forgotten. The dominant consciousness on the planet is of oneness, is of this sacred wholeness. So when we remember we're in league with this larger life, it shifts the balance of power. And that's what allows me, in a sense, to breathe in the midst of this devastating destruction. Now, what is reborn and how quickly, none of that is guaranteed. It's not like we just sit back and, watch our social media feeds to see the new world come, that it depends on how we engage. It depends on how we meet these times in a transformative and healing way. We're used to thinking of, if we just wait for the next election cycle, then, we'll get a new administration and things will be better. This is not that, right? This liminal period of transformation, of collapse and emergence, this is years. This is possibly generations. So those of us who are here now have a role to play. Those who came before us made their contribution. Now it's our turn to make ours. And then there will be others yet to come, all in league. Maybe some folks are familiar, certainly the cathedrals that take generations to build. But in parts of India, there are those living root bridges where each generation weaves the living roots of a tree to meet the roots from the other side. And the bridge itself is alive. It is woven of the roots. But every generation has to weave their roots for the bridge to remain viable. So what is ours to weave in our season? Yeah.
That's beautifully stated. Thank you for that. I'm going to read a few of the comments that have come in, and then I'm going to take a look at your website. Carol writes, absolutely, Liza. My view of my contribution has nothing to do with anyone else. I control my destiny and have no intention of giving my personal power to this horrible administration. When you're an environmental activist, you are used to one step forward, two steps back. I love the analogy of one breath in, one breath out. It is my mission in this life to defend those who cannot defend themselves, including air, water, mineral resources, animals, plants, all aspects of this planet. Thank you. Very, very beautiful. DeArah is appreciating you very much. There's some nice comments from her as well. Well, I want to show people a couple things. Again, the book, here it is. I've got it pulled up. There we go. Soul Medicine for a Fractured World, Healing, Justice, and the Path of Wholeness. And I'm going to take you to her website. And her website is her name. So that's nice and easy. Liza, L-I-Z-A, like Liza Minnelli, Rankow, RANKOW.org. And when you go there, boom, boom, click right away, and that takes you right to the book. And so, very important book. And Liza, I think we've all really enjoyed how you express yourself. And thank you for a lifetime, starting at 10 years old on to today, a lifetime of service to our awakening world. And we'll look forward to seeing you during our roundtable conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Scott.
Okay, it is time, to integrate all this wisdom from Joa and Ken and Liza, and we still have another author to meet, Kimberly, but it's mid-show break time, which means it's time to go to Omashar, get up, move, groove, dance to the music, go to the bathroom if need be. That's what I'm going to do, to be honest. And take it away, Brother Omashar.
song's about going home, about hopes and dreams, the ones that open your eyes, yet you rarely realize what they are doing with you. It's time to look where we're going and choose our destiny. It's our attitude in life that leaves us open to all kinds of things. This is the journey you take on your own. There are others going with you, yet you do it all alone. All you need is courage. Spirit is with you and the outcome is assured, so there's no need to worry, no reason for fear. You will feel much lighter. What you know well, share it amongst your friends. I can't conceive of a world where there's no feeling at all, no time for greater things. Only one thing to say, and that's to enjoy yourself. There's no one better than you to do what you do, to go for anything. This is the journey you take on your own. There are others going with you, yet you do it all alone. All you need is courage. Spirit is with you and the outcome is assured, so there's no need to worry, no reason for fear. You will feel much lighter.
I love that song. Got to go to gallery view,
Thank you.
send some love and appreciation. It's such a heartfelt song. I love that one.
It is. It's interesting though. When I was tuning into what to bring tonight, that all heartfelt, I felt like rocking, rolling it, but it shows. I mean, both Ken and Liza, holy smoke! I can't wait for Kimberly, but I'm just so touched by the reality of what they've shown and their eloquence and their ability to transmit it clearly and concisely. Thank you so much, both of you. And Joa, you rock, brother. Taking us. Looking forward. See you.
Well, for some reason, my camera just went weird, and it's literally not loading, but you'll still hear my voice, and I'm going to bring up our next author, Kimberly Engels. And welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for patiently waiting. I hope you've enjoyed meeting your fellow authors. And I'm really excited for what you're going to be sharing, because again, it just fits right into what our show is all about. In fact, last Saturday night, our show was all about the disclosure, the beginning, the little itty bitty teeny weeny beginning of disclosure of government files. But let me read to you the name of her book. It's so perfect for us. Contact and Multi-Dimensional Subjectivity Towards Phenomenology of Disclosure. And that's what's happening. Amazing timing for us. So same question as I've asked everybody else. If you could just maybe share with our audience a little bit about your history, your background, and what has led you to writing this very important book.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Scott, and I'm really happy to be here. And I actually really think that this my book ties in with the themes of the other books. And so, my history, I'm a philosophy professor. I'm still in academia. And I really wasn't interested in anything having to do with spiritual topics for a very long time, leading up until 2020, when the UFO phenomenon, basically some of the things happening in the news cycle and some of the documentaries coming out, caught my eye. And, I didn't really know much of what it was about at first. I really thought it was just, about potentially extraterrestrial crafts, these unknown objects, these physical objects that we didn't know what they were. Um, but I started going further and further down the rabbit hole, as they say, and realizing that the sightings of the physical objects were just like the tip of the iceberg in terms of the contact phenomena and the experiences that people were reporting when they had a sighting of a UFO or a UAP, or when they had contact with the alleged intelligences behind them, and learning and reading more about these encounters and these extremely profound, transformative spiritual experiences people had that really opened them up to an entirely new understanding of themselves, of how they relate to otherness, so of their own relationality, and a new understanding of the universe. And this was, in a way, actually very transformative for me as well, because I had lived for many years in that physical materialist world, and it was true for me at that time, for a long time, like this is what the world is, it's just physical and that's it. And so, learning about these experiences and the expansions of consciousness, and the way that people who undergo these experiences emerge from them with a completely different understanding of self was very interesting to me as a philosopher who had for a very long time just been interested in different forms of transformative experience. And so, it reoriented my own subjectivity, my own way of relating to reality. I know, the theme of your show here, you talk a lot about, relationships to each other, relationships to the earth. And many people who have contact encounters emerge with profoundly different relationality, both in terms of how they view others, um, having experienced often that phenomenal experience of oneness that Liza was speaking about, that deep realization that everything is one, having an expanded circle of moral considerability and moral patiency in terms of caring about the earth, caring about plants and animals as beings of moral concern, and also as understanding their life as kind of unfolding on multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. That there's the physical self that's going through physical time and space, and then there's dimensions or layers or aspects of the self that are not identical to the body and that are kind of unfolding in an atemporal space. Or, we can use the language of dimensions to speak about it. Dimensions other outside of the 3D. And so, the book was really asking this question because often, these experiences are not taken seriously in academia. I am an academic. And these experiences are not, they're just kind of seen as people are, delusional or, there's some kind of mundane explanation or it's written off or it's just kind of classified as like religious experience as if that means nothing. Um, so I wanted to ask, what does it mean to take these experiences seriously as sites of philosophical inquiry? And so I conducted, a study with experiencers that was approved by my university. And I really got in depth with, discussing with them not only what was the original experience that you had with the UFO and with the intelligence that was associated with it or perceived to be associated with it, but how did that unfold for you in the aftermath? What was your meaning making process in the aftermath? What was your interpretive process? And how has this really changed the way that you fundamentally anchor yourself in reality and that you relate to others, that you relate to the earth, and that understand who you are as a human being and who we are collectively as a human species. And the insights in it, I think, are quite profound. And what I really tried to do was take these insights, witness them fully, right? Because too often, people listen with only a partial lens. It's like they have an idea of what they think, the UFOs are, or they have an idea of who the intelligences behind them are. And so they'll only listen with that framework in mind. And I said, well, let's listen fully. Let's listen to all dimensions of the experience. Let's try to check our assumptions at the door as much as possible and just fully witness this experience and witness what it's doing to us and what it does to those who come into contact with it. I think that the results in some ways speak for themselves. But also what I attempted to do, or I think what I did do in the book, is put this in conversation with academic philosophy and philosophical concepts, because a lot of the changes that people go through, they have pretty sophisticated ontologies and metaphysical understandings in the aftermath that they may not necessarily have the philosophical language for. But I have the philosophical language, and I kind of put it into conversation in the later chapters, and I essentially, there's all this talk about disclosure right now, but it's talking about disclosure as like a government event, right? Where like the government is going to reveal the truth. And I ask in the book, what if we treated disclosure as something that is ongoing in these experiences? It's not something that we're waiting for. It's something that's already happening. In the contact experiences, taking them seriously as sites of inquiry that are revealing or disclosing something about ourselves and something about the world that we live in, and that as an ongoing process, then disclosure is not something that we're waiting for, some kind of authority, government to give us the truth about it. Instead, disclosure is something that is happening right now when we listen to the experiences of those who have encountered these entities and are open to the possibility of our own experiences as well. And so, it's a blend of, there's a lot of experience or testimony. I take this testimony seriously. I acknowledge it, or I approach it phenomenologically. I don't assume to know from the outset, exactly what it is. I just want to present, what appears, how did they live it, how do they interpret it? And then again, I put it into kind of a conversation with philosophical concepts and say, what is already being disclosed to us through these experiences.
Beautiful. I've got some comments to share, but here's the book for everybody to look at. Contact and Multidimensional Subjectivity Toward a Phenomenology of Disclosure. And I really like what you said, because it's true. It's not about waiting for the government to do it. Although I am grateful that they're starting the process. It's a step.
Yeah.
But you're right. Disclosure's been happening. I've been involved in this for a very long time. Back in 1996, I was hired to do all the UFO stories for a nationally broadcast television show called The People on the Borderline. And during those years, I interviewed 8 former astronauts, 30 former military officials. And way back then, we were waiting for disclosure.
For disclosure, right? Yeah.
Right. So at least finally, little itty bitty.
Little bit, yeah. Yeah.
But you're right.
Absolutely.
The real disclosure is each and every one of us having our own unique, extraordinary experiences, which of course are as diverse as are human beings. whether it's
Absolutely.
seeing something in the sky or having an astral projection or having a lucid dream experience or having a being that comes to visit us. There's any number of ways that it happens. Sometimes with psychedelics, sometimes through meditation, and sometimes out of the blue, you have this experience, right? So I'm going to read a few of the comments from our audience, and then I've got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Connie Baxter Marlowe writes, Kimberly, this is so important as open contact becomes imminent. And then she reminds everybody about their 30-minute episode, Cosmic Contact, from their In Search of the Future series. I recently hosted one of those roundtables for them, and it was great. We had Danny Sheehan and all sorts of interesting people. DeArah writes, academia basically relies on what can be seen, while we know that the maturity of reality actually lies beneath. And then DeArah continues, Kimberly, I love how you interweave and support the differing disciplines. Thank you. And about academia, Reverend Jeffrey Colbrook writes, this is from a friend of his, quote, that's why I was so glad to leave my university teaching job. Their idea of research was like living with an axe to the back of your neck. That's a very strong visual impression. The writing was on the wall that knowledge was going nowhere in the institutions. Knowledge or truth is treated as a fixed property that the academics strictly policed. And that is going back way, way, way back, to forcing the great thinkers, to have to recant what they had come up with because it was different from church doctrine. Galileo being told, we're either going to torture you to death or you're going to refute what you've just discovered, right? So we have a long history of academics being so attached to having the knowledge or having the dogma that we all have to believe. And life is a constant expansion. We keep going through various stages of cognitive dissonance, which leads to my question for you. Now, I met Kimberly because we're both part of something called the Consciousness Club, which is a really wonderful, fun group of rather radical thinking, outside the box people. And a lot of the Consciousness Club people are also very involved with Uopedia, which we highlighted last Saturday night. What are your thoughts about oncological crisis, massive cognitive dissonance as disclosure takes place? Do you think that concern is mostly a PR campaign to keep things quiet, or do you think it really is a legitimate concern that we have to prepare for?
Yeah, so I mean, that's an interesting question. And going back to what the comment that you read about, that boundary policing of academia. The first chapter of the book is called Taking Experiencers Seriously, and basically epistemic injustice and why it is so difficult to take these types of experiences seriously in the academy. And I talk a lot about those very problems, like the policing, the gatekeeping around what knowledge is, the idea that the scientific method is the only way to produce truth, and that everything, has to be physical and proven, and that, science can give a picture of the entire scope of reality, when we all know that it can give us an understanding of the physical reality, but a lot of reality is so much bigger than that, right? And there's so much more that it cannot. And so I'm very, very cognizant of those barriers. And as a philosopher, I have a little bit more flexibility than some folks in other fields. Some of my colleagues who work, in physics or astronomy, and they're at universities right now, get a much harder time, in terms of how rigid it is. Philosophy has a little bit more flexibility because I can critique those boundaries. I can talk about, the epistemic assumptions that people are making and whether those are justified or not. So I just wanted to comment about that. But to your question, I mean, I think there is a level of ontological shock that some people are going to go through. I mean, I went through my own mini version of it. That's a little bit of what I was talking about at the beginning. And I say mini, but some of it actually, there were times that it was pretty rough because I did not have a worldview that made sense for this. And I kept encountering things that were just like shattering one thing after another that I had just assumed was true. And so some people are going to be confronted with that, right? But that's also really what I talk about in the book. It's that the experiencers that I'm interviewing were not people who had worldviews where they thought that this was possible. They were ordinary people going around about their lives. Many of them even said, I was an atheist or I was a materialist before this happened. And then my whole worldview got shattered when I woke up and there were entities, standing at the end of my bed and I had no idea what to make of it. And it was hard, but they did it, I think that there may be some growing pains as we're going through this disclosure process, and there are, for some people it is going to rupture their understanding of what reality is. But I really strongly feel that we're up to the task. Like, we can handle this. It might be, again, it might be more difficult for some than others. I don't think there's going to be, some widespread panic that, we can't handle it. I think humanity can handle the truth. I think humanity can handle disclosure. I think that, again, as you said, everybody's own experience and interaction with it is going to be different and is going to be, tailored to their own experience of it and their own interaction and participation with it. That's in the final chapter. I really talk about how everybody has their own participatory journey with this phenomenon. If you're willing to, play by its rules or kind of enter the game, and not in a malicious way, but just like it's kind of like a communication between us and this unknown other. And if we're willing to open ourselves up to it, it can be like really fun and really exciting. And I think that collectively, I think that we're up for it is what I'll say. I'm optimistic. Right? So that's how I would respond to that question.
Good, good, good. Well, we're going to be busy. We have a lot of people to support and to have that balance of empathy for whatever a person's going through.
Absolutely.
And also not to become dogmatic, to really recognize that each person's having their own unique journey of awakening, their own unique journey of consciousness. And there's no just one thing. It's so important for us to really appreciate the whole day. Just as we're understanding the diversity of the universe, it's not just one alien species. It's not just one dogma. It's so vast and big. So we have to expand our consciousness. We have to expand recognizing each person has their own unique journey there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to go into our roundtable conversation in a moment, but you can find her book on Amazon. And here's the page, and I put the link into the chat box. And a very important book at a very important time. So thank you for taking the time to give birth, each of you, giving birth to these babies, these incredible babies that are these books that are so valuable to us. And so thank you, Kimberly. I'm going to bring all of our people up in a moment, but I do have a couple of important Global Peace Tribe announcements. So tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to have another extended conversation with our good friend Swami Beyondananda, also known as Steve Bierman. And we are going to be doing it, I'll be at the Sunrise Center. And some of you joined us last week, and we enjoyed that so much. It was a bit of an experiment. We're going to do it for a longer period of time. So there will be more time for you to interact with Swami. And I've put into the chat box the Zoom link. So join us at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. for where Kimberly is, because she's on the East Coast. And we're going to have a conversation with Swami, and I'll be there kind of bringing all of you into the Zoom room. And that's going to be a special event happening tomorrow. I also really want to encourage everybody to consider joining our relationship mastery course. Omashar and Susan Bloomquist and DeArah have joined the course. And what we've decided to do is we're opening it up. So we're going to do 14 more weeks every Saturday. But if people don't want to do the whole 14 weeks, you can do it one course at a time. And I'm going to put into the chat box right now what this Saturday's course is going to be. And I'll also read it for those of you who are tuning in on Facebook and YouTube. This Saturday, we're going to be looking at deepening self-awareness, learning how to differentiate from our thoughts, feelings, and needs and values, learning how to understand how thoughts shape emotional experience, moving from reptile brain reactivity to conscious responsiveness, shifting from head-based analysis to heart-centered presence, and an introduction to somatic awareness. Our body is a messenger. Our body is the source of information. So please do join us if you can. And we are going to have...
we have Joa, Scott.
I did see that. Thank you for that note.
Your face has disappeared.
Yeah, my video, my Zoom is doing funny things.
It is.
So I'm having a little bit of an issue here. In fact, I'm frozen. So co-host Omashar, can you put Joa on screen, please? And I'm going to, if possible, make you host, leave, restart my computer, and come back.
Okay.
Because I am definitely frozen.
Well, do you want to have a few introductory questions with Joa and then he can carry on whilst you go in and come out?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and have Joa share about his book?
He's here right now.
I've got the little Macintosh Wheel of Doom whirling around. So.
Hey, Joa.
Yeah, and I did actually send you a direct message for how to buy my book. I sent it to you direct, Scott, if you want to check that out.
I'm not able to access anything right now, so if you can send it to Omashar and then he can show it.
Yeah, I don't know how to send it to Omashar.
You can just send it. You can just pop it in the general chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just do that real quick here. Here we go. I think it went through.
Awesome.
Good. All right. So my book is called The Sexual Integrity Handbook, Journey from Imbalance to True Love. And it's a channeled book. Master Tobias and Saint Germain, my higher self as well. And the remedy for the imbalance comes from the goddess Isis, and it's really fantastic. So the book starts off with revealing the 6 major spiritual disclosures. So we have spiritual disclosures that are changing everything, both internally with ourselves. And the first spiritual disclosure happened in 1930. The I Am teachings, the I Am wisdom was finally given to the common people at Mount Shasta, California. Saint Germain brought that forth to Guy Ballard, and the I Am discourses were published. And so many of the teachers in our New Age draw from that information. And the basics of the I Am teachings are I am that I am. And it's not obscure information, it's what it is. I am God, I am source. That's what I really am. And as we focus on that, it completely changes your life. You really shift your life from being a human trying to have a spiritual experience to realizing you are that I am. You are that soul that infinite soul, here to transform your human experience. It completely changes your life to really focus on what you really are. And so we have to own the human, own the body, but we're not the body, we're not the human. We are the I am. We are perfection. We are amazing. We're beautiful always, innocent always. So that's the first spiritual disclosure that happened in 1930. And because all that time before, that information was removed by the Roman Catholic Church, 90-something% of it. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and many other I am statements, not to claim it as him alone, but this is what you do when you realize you're here to realize you are that great I am. The Father and you are also one. Back in those days, he called it the Father. It's the same thing as the I am. Everything was masculine back then. So anyway, so the second disclosure, I hope you can still hear me. The second disclosure is the law of attraction. So that hit really big, the law of attraction and different spin-offs of that. And then actually there's 12 spiritual laws, which we teach in our school. I have a college, and so it used to be called the I Am University of Mount Shasta, then the I Am University of Spiritual Psychology. But now we recently changed it to the Spiritual Leadership Academy. And it's just online now. It's live online, though, always face-to-face interaction. So, and I have 2 master's degrees in spiritual psychology, and that completely changed my life. And so, anyway, this is what I educate. And every week, Wednesday, we have classes, and for the last 14 years, since 2012. And so, so back to the book. The third disclosure, this major spiritual disclosure, is what this book is about. What is that? It is the return of the divine feminine to balance the masculine. And this is huge. And so what we've had this war between the masculine and feminine energies since the beginning of humanity. And it's really, I'm convinced, the root of most conflict. So let me back up here and explain what I believe the real, or the energetic cross is from the Christianity. And the cross is the unification at the heart, the unification of the higher self and the human self, and the masculine and the feminine at the heart. And when we unify in both ways, this brings us into Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness. And so this book is very focused on the masculine feminine, because that's the final piece here. There's a lot of people who have been working already on merging the higher self with the human self. And we do that in our school through what's called inner bonding. It's an amazing process. And healing the wounded child with the spiritually connected adult. So this book is about unifying the masculine and feminine. So there's all this talk about how important polarity is. Well, it's there, and polarity is important for attraction. So it's what starts a relationship. But I believe the real purpose of relationship is to feel our unity. And so now this book is not about becoming androgynous, even though the soul itself is more androgynous. But it's perfectly fine to be a man or be a woman as long as you're loving your opposite. This is what balances you. This idea that there's a divine feminine or divine masculine that's by itself, it's not true. It's ego. You got that? I really want to make that point. There is no divine feminine or divine masculine if it's separate from the opposite. It's ego. That's ego. It's totally ego. So we're here to unify. So this is the wholeness that we're choosing to remember and live. And so this book is about how to do that. But it's also about the history, so you really get how much suffering we've been creating. It's the cause of suffering. And, it all started in the very beginning. It all started with these souls that were more masculine seeing a feminine soul, let's say, and they want to go home. They miss home. They want to go home to God, to Source, and they have this feeling. Well, this other person's different. They must have the key to home. So then they steal their energy, and it feels good for a little while, and then there's a crash after that. Anybody relate to that? That's what most people's, or very often, many people's sexual experiences are like. So it's like moth to the flame, or get that high, and then you crash, and you feel lower afterwards. And so this book is about a whole different way of being with ourselves and each other, where you don't go through that crash at all. You feel this building of energy of the masculine and the feminine within you, and you feel your wholeness. And then the cravings fall away. All kinds of cravings for food, cravings, because it's really all craving for love is all what it really is. We're all seeking for love in the wrong places, or in ways that are a little shadowy. They're not, and so this book is about how to live in the loving all the time, and how to feel the balance of the masculine and feminine. When the masculine and feminine is out of balance, we'll argue with each other. We steal each other's energy subconsciously. People most of the time don't get what they're doing, and we're stealing each other's energy. And then there's a resentment, a real deep resentment of that, and the power struggles ensue, and then often the relationship ends. And I've been through this, and how many people can relate? I think many of you probably can. And so this book is about remembering our wholeness, truly, and learning how to experience that on the body level, absolutely on the body level, to embody the divine feminine marriage with each other. And the book starts off with an amazing process that you can do at home tonight or tomorrow. It's called Talking Hands. So you put your hands in front of yourself, and then you say, okay, this is my masculine. Hello, masculine. This is my feminine. Hello, feminine. And then you have them talk to each other. And you just let them talk back and forth to each other. And what happens is people are amazed that very often there's an argument. They're not really getting along. They're not really working with each other. And so then they have to work it out. And as they start to finally get some resolution, the hands come a little closer together. But you can't fake it. It's got to be real. And eventually you get to, they're together. So when you're ready for that. And so, because what's happening out here is an outpicturing of these inner conflicts that we're really going on inside ourselves. It's happened so many times with my clients and students that when we see this argument going on, and then at the end they go, my God, that's the same kind of argument I've been having with my husband, the same exact argument. So it was all going on inside of me. So this is what we're waking up to, is peace has to begin within, and this book helps you see how to heal it.
Beautiful. I want to take people one more time to where you can find it. Here it is. And if you go to miraclecoach.com/sexual-integrity ebook, right off the bat, you can get it. It's The Journey From Imbalance to True Love, the Sexual Integrity Handbook. And I really appreciate, Joa, that you've taken the time to write this and share about it. I apologize for my computer freezing up on me. I kind of all of a sudden it's a little bit scary when you're hosting a show and your computer freezes. So I apologize for not remembering to go to you next. But I do want to bring up our other authors. We've got a little bit over time, but I'm going to try and get everybody's questions in. And we do have some wonderful questions. First one is from our beloved Dorina Joy, coming to us from Ecuador. She writes, thank you everyone for your sharings. Question to Kimberly and all authors. In best case scenario, how do you see the next phase after disclosure unfolding? Including how do you see co-evolution with other extraterrestrial beings and even conscious AI, artificial intelligence, NHI, non-human intelligence, and interdimensional species? So let's start with Kimberly answering that question.
Yeah, I mean it's a big question, but I mean the best case scenario is really what you've laid out there, right? That we're in a co-evolutionary process with a variety of different types of beings, and I do think that what you mentioned is correct. I don't think that all of the entities associated with the UFOs are all extraterrestrial. I think some of them are, what we would call interdimensional or from other time periods, or maybe they're extraterrestrial and interdimensional at the same time. Some of those distinctions I think start to break down. And I do think that some of them are AI. They may be AIs from, other dimensions, other time periods and things like that. So I think the best case scenario is, that we are collectively as a species able to open ourselves up to this otherness, to to this paradigm shift where we realize we are not, the alpha species, that we're one intelligent species among a universe that is, has all kinds of intelligent life there, that we make that adjustment. And as you say, it becomes kind of a co-creative and co-evolutionary process. I don't think it's necessarily going to be smooth. I think that it's going to be, like I said, some growing pains as we go through that. That's every paradigm shift that humanity has ever gone through can be difficult. But I think the outcome will be, positive. At least that's my read on the whole situation.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm going to go to Ken. I'm curious, Ken, if you've got anything that you'd like to add to that question.
Well, I'm appreciating the confluence of perspectives here, and it almost feels like we're talking about different permutations of the same thing, which is that we're going through an awakening process, which is a disclosure of consciousness, and it's a slow movement, but the ego is always going to resist this emergence. There's always going to be that dynamic between emergence, the growing pains, the difficulties with fragmentation and transformation, and so it's going to be an interesting process. But at the same time, I really feel, I mean, one of the things that I could say is when I talked to someone about my book a few years ago, they said to me, the world isn't ready for your perspective yet. And I found that just over the course of maybe 5 or 10 years, these perspectives that we're talking about right now, everybody seems to be very much aligned with, on board with. And I'm asking myself the question, what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years that has made this larger lens, has made people receptive and interested in this larger lens when they weren't as comfortable with it 5 or 10 years ago. So I'm seeing this evolution moving in a way that is surprising me, actually, and I feel like we're in the midst of a collective awakening, and I think that disclosure is just one ramification. It's just one aspect of this process.
I agree with you. When you say what's caused it to change the last 10 years, it's 1,001 things have caused it. So many on so many different levels. While I've got the camera on you, Ken, there's another question that came in for you specifically. Ken, where do you see the field of psychology moving toward as we embrace metaphysics as the new primary science?
I absolutely love that question because I feel like I'm right in the heart of that question myself. The field of psychology, as we've been talking about, has been very aligned with medicine and the epistemology of the scientific field. I feel that it is growing. And as I've said before, I think the Jungian ideas and the archetypal ideas that were once seen as somewhat fringy are now coming very much into the mainstream. And I see the metaphysical dimension as being the next frontier in the integration of psychology. And I'm not just talking about transpersonal psychology. I'm talking about moving into from a philosopher's standpoint, Kimberly, I don't know if you're familiar with Erich Neumann, who was a philosopher and a physician. And he talked about the different reality fields. I don't know if you're familiar with his ideas, but he talked about the physical reality field, the archetypal field, and what he called the self field, which is very much the field of energy. What we think of as metaphysics, and I think now in quantum, physics, they're exploring this and detailing it much more on a scientific level. But I think that what's happening is we're moving into that field of energy now, and we're discovering that within that field of energy are worlds of phenomenon that we're now just beginning to articulate. And I think that if anybody's familiar with Michael Newton's work, Journey of Souls, and the Newton's work, they've articulated this metaphysical dimension and researched it in ways that very few people have. And I think that what we're trying to do now is we're trying to bring a deeper understanding of the self field, which is the field of energy, the unitary field outside of space and time, as you were indicating, that's beyond the temporal field. And bringing that into our understanding, actually not bringing it in, but I actually believe it's the foundation of psychology. I think psychology has been backwards. I think we work from the physical up, and I think that what we should be doing is working from the metaphysical up, and the a priori aspects of consciousness as we begin to understand the human life from the physiological, psychological, social, cultural, etc. We've been working backwards. And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to reverse that frame and look at the metaphysical as actually the foundation of psychology rather than as the afterthought.
I think,
yeah.
yeah, no, I think I think that you're talking about us having it backwards is just exactly correct, and that's something that I dive into a bit in my book as well, not necessarily from the psychology standpoint, but just from the idea that we think about consciousness as like this outgrowth of the material. Like we start.
It's an epiphenomenon of the
it's
the
an
neurons
epiphenomenon,
clicking together.
Right, but we really have it backwards. We need to start in that with the consciousness, and then the physical is actually one expression of this wider field of consciousness. So I think this idea that we have been approaching it in a variety of disciplines, or just like our basic understanding of reality and what we are and what the starting point is, has been backwards.
And I think that what's happened is we've been very aligned with the kind of the reductionist materialist worldview, and not. And I think that we're starting to look back at the Platonic view, and understanding that Plato had it right, and and everything emerges from the field of energy and these a priori essences, and I think also the Kabbalistic notion of universal, transcendental attributes. I think we're starting to look at our historical foundations, in understanding that we drifted far away as the ego has gone through its process of differentiation and development. And now we're going through what Eric Neumann would call the return. And he had this very classic statement where he said, "We leave Mother and we return to Sophia."
Mm.
And we leave the Mother and we return to the divine feminine, and that is the universal process that we have to go through in order to come back to the divine feminine.
Beautiful. I'm going to bring Liza up because we haven't heard from her for a little while. And the question for you that one of our people has asked is, Liza, how do you see sacred activism evolving?
I think I would see it not so much as sacred activism evolving, but as we human beings who are practicing it evolving. That both from a standpoint of healing the fractures within ourselves and within the collective of our social structures and systems, right? Mainstream activism tends to primarily address systems and structures, and that is important from a harm reduction standpoint, right? To minimize the assault, but without shifting the underlying paradigm, which is where sacred activism, as I understand it, is aiming, that whatever changes we make in the outer world can't endure, because without a paradigmatic shift, we'll revert back to type. Now, it's easy to profess oneness. It's easy to feel our oneness with nature and with people we agree with, and even with folks who are most harmed by oppression. But the hard part is to work with our oneness with the oppressor, with the perpetrator. That is, an inconvenient truth that I think we often bypass, right? My oneness with the current occupant of the White House, like, that's not a sweet, easy place to inhabit. So what does that demand of us, right? Archbishop Desmond Tutu talked about that we are kin with both the oppressed and the oppressor, and that until the oppressor is liberated from the consciousness of separation and dualism, until the oppressor is brought to awakening and remembrance that they too belong to this larger whole, our work is not done.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to also respond to that question. May I?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. I hear the question is how's activism evolving?
Sacred activism.
Sacred activism. Peace Walk for me is an example of that. And instead of being a protest, we're not here to convince anybody anything. We're just here to walk peace. We're to walk our talk, and then live that in our lives. And but to display it too. We have flags, peace flags as we walk, so people can see it. But we're not arguing with anybody about anything. And to me, it's such a challenge. How do you deal with oppression? And taken from my book, we really, when we study deeper, we find out that the victim is the oppressor and the oppressor is the victim. They're really one and the same. So those who are being victims aren't aware that they are also oppressors, and those who are oppressors often aren't aware that they're being victims at that time. And so as you study this deeper, you find out that they're one and the same. They're both. And so, but then when we're in peace, we've let that go. We've let that duality go. And that's the true self, actually. It's what we really are. And peace is the highest state before enlightenment. It's the doorway to enlightenment. So I feel like that's where we're heading is learning to not take sides. When we take sides in our own brain. So we're not in balance anymore. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Joe. And I think I saw Liza raise her hand.
Yeah.
I did. You know, Joa, I'm with you on the highest level of consciousness, right? And meanwhile, we are inhabiting a physical reality where, for example, the people in Gaza, spiritually, yes, are one with those who are dropping bombs and committing genocide. But there's some work to do to bring those two closer together. That while we are knowing the highest truth, how are we called to engage in the world at the level of effects? Now, I do believe that each of us is called to participate in a different place. And there are people who are called simply to hold the high watch, to anchor that consciousness. And I get the sense that that is your calling, to really maintain and amplify that vibration, that truth, so that people can catch it in the collective field. That's essential practice. And we need people who are, you know, we just had a peace pilgrimage here in Oakland on Saturday, going to the port of Oakland because weapons are being shipped to Israel that are supporting the genocide in Gaza and the war in Iran from Oakland. And so spiritual leaders and people of faith went to those sites and said no and made witness and offered a moral protest. You know, so we need, and then, you know, we need folks who are watching the kids while people are doing that. We need, you know, I mean, it's like there's everywhere. Minneapolis was such a gorgeous example of this, right? People responded out of love, but they got their bodies in the streets too. You know, and so I just want to lift up the importance of the both and of it all, and that each of us, if we tune in and discover what our calling is, what our soul's purpose is, you know, I think anybody that's on the planet right now is not here by accident, but is here because our soul has something to contribute. And that can look all different kind of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Liza, I'm going to wrap this part up with that because I think it's a really, really beautiful thought. And you're right. Each of us has our own unique soul mission. And tonight we've met 4 people who are definitely following their soul's mission through their, not just the books that you've written, but the way you're walking the talk, what you've lived and are living that you've put into book form. And I am going to read one final comment from Connie Baxter Marlowe, and then we're going to evolve into our prayer time. Connie writes, each of these books and authors are brilliant and important contributors to cutting-edge key aspects of humanity's journey on the evolutionary upward spiral. Bravo. And bravo to you, Connie. You summed it up beautifully. So I want to thank all 4 of you for your contributions to our awakening world, both the show and the big picture. And I hopefully would love to have each and every one of you back on the show where we can go more in depth with the beautiful things that you're doing in the world. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do conclude our shows with prayer time and then a final Omashar song. And, you know, especially talking about sacred activism, that's a perfect segue. So I'm going to turn it over to DeArah, our prayer mistress, masteress, goddess of love.
Thank you, Scott. And welcome, welcome, welcome to our authors and to our beautiful community, inviting you to return and be a part of our amazing Zoom room and come back and continue to contribute. And I hadn't realized that my mission, I've been bringing spirituality into the public schools since 1998, and didn't realize until tonight that, in a sense, I was preparing people for ontological shock, as well as shifting this evolutionary paradigm. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And what a beautiful blend of the intellectual and the heart and all that we are in this beautiful tribe. So in our prayer time, we often ask for support in the expansion of our understanding of these new shifts, of ways to expand our own missions. And we also ask for the use of all of our beautiful energies to send healing out into ourselves, our inner circles here, and out into the world and the galaxies beyond. And one of the things that we do also that I'll offer to our authors is a space here to go even larger into the unusual. And so very often we speak light language. And so I'll begin this part of our prayer. So mehene chikima haine kisitini mahashakina swena he mehe to home e kishina ahane mini sweetina a o ome shekitina hasitina asimehi ono he shikimi ina hasakatano eshimina hasikitina na oshi asemehena okone titishi, the blending of all the worlds, the blending of all the parts, this beautiful expansion of light and love. We offer this prayer to all those in need, bringing it right down to the here and now. We offer prayers to our beautiful Eleanor Joy and for physical healing in her body, in her elbow, her arms. Prayers for Cornflower's mother, beautiful musician that comes into our circle. Prayer for our beloved Scotty and his healing. And feel free to put more prayers into the chat. Scott does a really great job of grounding us into that. And I'm asking for resilience on the part of all of us for the work that we're doing, the truth that we're speaking into the world. May we have even greater courage and even greater strength in our softness as we step by step, piece by piece, show the way, are the way. And just breathing that in and sending this love all the way up to the very top of our globe and all the way down to the bottom of our globe, expanding it out into the galaxies beyond. And just wrapping this in love and light, because I know Scott's probably ready for dinner. And we love to be serious and jovial all at the same time because we can hold all of it. And so it is.
Thank you. Let's just have a moment. I'm going to go to gallery view. Let's have a moment of 1 minute or two where we just each send out prayer for whoever. You can even be yourself, whomever you're in awareness of that needs extra love. And remembering Yogananda's suggestion of that beautiful prayer of just maximum grace. Maximum grace for Scotty Satori, maximum grace for all the beings that we love and care for. Maximum grace for each of our authors. May their work get out to the world and reach those beings who will most benefit from reading the book or listening to the audiobook or listening to what they have to say. Thank you, beautiful, beautiful authors that we love. And thank you, Omashar, for reminding me to let everybody know what's coming up on Saturday. Our next show, Saturday night, it's our monthly visit with Soul Search luminaries. And once again, almost all of the people that Tangela, my co-host from Soul Search, has lined up are new friends, other than Debbie Solaris. But Eric and Greg and Judy are all new friends. We're going to have a special guest, which you'll have to come on Saturday night to discover who that's going to be. And as always with Soul Search, they'll be providing psychic readings and or healings for select members of the audience. So definitely join us live in the Zoom room if you can on Saturday night. And that's going to be our next show. And it is now my pleasure, one final time, to turn it over to our beloved Omashar to close us out.
Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. Whoa. Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. Whoa. For there in the silence is peace, is joy, is vast, immense, immeasurable love. Immeasurable love. I call to my silent friend, my Lord, myself, my own. I call to the place within wherein lies the keys to freedom. Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. Whoa. Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. For there in the silence is peace, is joy, is vast, immense, immeasurable love. Immeasurable love. I call to my silent friend, my Lord, myself, my own. I call to the place within wherein lies the keys to freedom. Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. Whoa. Blissful stillness, come to me. Blissful stillness, come. Hold me in your sweet silent embrace. Whoa.
What a beautiful message. May that blissful presence come to each and every one of us. Thank you so much, Omashar. And thank you again, our wonderful authors that we love and global peace tribers that we love. And please buy their books. Please support these wonderful, brilliant teachers. And I look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday night. God's blessings and take care. Good night.